conversation that we're having at the kitchen table right now that I'm overhearing, that if you have bad manners, you will go to jail. Which I'm not going to correct, because if that provokes a little fear, I think that would be good. We're making blueberry pancakes. What? We don't say jail?
But we don't say that about, we don't say
you heard me.
We don't say
Right, we don't say stupid because we go to jail. Exactly. We're making blueberry pancakes. Hey guys, good to see you. Morning. They actually came out really good despite the fact, hey Randy, despite the fact that I put in frozen blueberries, which, you know, when they heat up, they all kind of melt, and it's not exactly the greatest thing in the entire world, but it worked out pretty good. I have some happy customers, so you know what? We're just gonna, wow, look at that mess. Sorry, you're not supposed to see that. Hope you guys are off to a good holiday week so far. Is everyone working? Or are you still, you know, is it like a shortened week? Are you hitting the road? What's going on? We're home for a little bit, then we'll be traveling for a little bit, then we'll be home for a little bit of that sort of thing. So, we have a lot of news to get to today. I'm really excited because I have some updates for you guys that are really important that you've asked for, and I wanted to deliver upon when it came to immigration. But I want to start with something really important today, and that is just a little bit of history, because did you know this day in 1863 was the day that President Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address? Did you know that? And I was looking into it last night a little bit more, and I realized that my thoughts on the Gettysburg Address are actually not, we're not accurate. You know, I tend to think of the Gettysburg Address as something that happened after the Civil War, not right in the middle of it. And the truth of the matter is that the Civil War continued for another 2 years after the Gettysburg Address. And also, Lincoln was never supposed to play a big role in that ceremony. Yeah. Remember, at that time, the relationship between the federal governments and the states was really fraught. This is part of the reason for the Civil War. Here, I have a couple more. You got it? Okay. And so,
Cover and move.
Cover and move. Thanks, Leif. Want to say good morning?
Cover and move.
That's good. Let's talk more about the Gettysburg Address and run away from the kids. It'll be great. Cover and move. But actually, I can't because I want to show you something on my computer. So remember that the relationship between the states and the federal government, are you going to listen to this? It's really important.
Maybe Texas is where the Cowboys and they kill buffaloes.
Okay, that's true. In Texas, the Cowboys were there and they killed buffaloes and elks. Although I'm not sure there were elks in Texas. Liberty, Josephine, you know better than that.
New Mexico.
Oh, they do.
They do. Colorado, Wyoming, Montana.
Liberty, you're turning off my computer. Stop for a second.
Utah.
Okay, but here's the deal. Bless you. No, don't. You're gonna help me. But look, can you guys look at this picture, Trace and Liberty? This is the last, one of the few pictures that was taken at Gettysburg Battlefield, you guys. And this is during the Civil War. And Gettysburg Battlefield was where a lot of men died and were injured. And so this is the ceremony on this day in 1863. Can you guys spot President Lincoln? President Lincoln had a beard. Can you guys spot him? Do you see anyone with a beard in that picture?
No.
I do. Hold on, Liberty. He's right there.
Yeah, I see him.
That's what the Library of Congress says. That's Lincoln. And he had to wait for 2 hours. Can you guys believe it?
Yeah.
2 hours before he gave, sorry guys. He had to wait for...
He's right there, Mommy.
Wait, no, that's the top hat. We think about him as Lincoln with the top hat, but it's not that guy. Apparently, it's this guy, the guy sitting without a hat in the middle of the crowd, not getting a lot of attention. Because the guy that invited him said, listen, you're invited, but if you don't come, it's fine. And if you speak, it basically has to be short. And so President Lincoln followed a guy that spoke for 2 hours, and he spoke for only 2 minutes. And that is the speech that we all remember. So, anyways, that happened on this day in 1863.
Can we just do it with 4 hours?
No, we can't do it 4 hours. Believe me, these people have things to do. Okay, finish eating your pancakes, okay? Go ahead. Go back to your chairs. Go ahead. Don't touch my computer. Go ahead. You have more pancakes to eat. I got to give them an update on what's going on with the Caravans. Sit. Oh my gosh, these kids with my computer. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think that's interesting to know about a little bit about history. You know, when you start your day with a little bit of history, it sort of gives you a nice perspective for the rest of the framework. I'm just going to shut that door. But there you go. I'll post that picture on Instagram in just a few minutes so you can see it yourself and sort of take an examination of it and a few sort of interesting facts that go along with it. But one of the things I was going to point out is that really during the Civil War, one of the things that changed dramatically after is the relationship between the federal government and the states. Because before, the states were really empowered in a way that was very different than other countries. And in fact, for Gettysburg National Cemetery, because that's the dedication was happening on this day, the Battle for Gettysburg happened in July, and only a few months later, this is what happened. There was a dedication for the cemetery. Did you know 150,000 people fought in Gettysburg? And 1 out of 3, so 50,000, were either killed or wounded or captured. And so the states got together of the men who died there and raised funds to create this cemetery. And so that's why the states were really in charge. And so when President Lincoln came, it wasn't like the federal government gave a ton of money for this endeavor. And this is the change. This is the change post-Civil War to what sort of happens with the U.S. government, for good or for bad. And it specifically happened when it came to an area of immigration, because post the Civil War, immigration in the following decades became something very much controlled by the federal government, not by the states. And it previously was overseen by the states. And so that's why I want to tie that a little bit into what's happening with the caravan. You guys have asked for an update, like, hey, we were talking so much about the caravan of people, asylum seekers coming to the border, but what happened to them? So here's the update. There's about 3,000 of asylum seekers right now at the U.S. southern border. The majority are in Tijuana, but several thousand more are on their way. What's particularly interesting is that if you hear the Tijuana mayor speak, you realize that we're not really all that different as we think that we are. Remember, the asylum seekers are made of Central Americans, so Guatemalan, folks from Honduras, and from El Salvador. Remember, if you're from Nicaragua, there are asylum seekers from Nicaragua, but if someone is seeking asylum or a way to get out of Nicaragua, they tend to go south to Costa Rica, to another stable nation. We need to do an update on Nicaragua, too, about what's happening in that country, so that's on my mind. But the caravan is mainly Guatemalan, Hondureño, from Honduras, thank you, and from El Salvador. Okay, sorry, a little Monday, lazy lips. So what's going on is that they're Central American is what I'm trying to say. They're not a lot of Mexicans in these caravans, and so the Tijuana mayor is basically saying there is a tsunami. That's his word, a tsunami of caravanners coming in to my city. And quite frankly, we don't have the resources for this. There's going to be 10,000 of them in the next few weeks, and basically issuing a warning that they shouldn't break the law. And so you should know that when, I think we have a tendency when you think of what's south of the border that, everybody sort of thinks the same, right? But in Mexico, this is a real issue, and several thousand asylum seekers have sought asylum inside Mexico already. Many have signed up for asylum in the United States, literally signed a book to sign their names up, but only about 100 people can be processed every day. So this is a very, very slow process. Now, in the meantime, you have the U.S. military at the border right now. You have less than 6,000 troops at the border. Our Defense Secretary Mattis was speaking about this, saying, well, our mission is to back up Border Patrol, and it's going to extend until basically the second week of December. What you should know is when it comes to the asylum seekers, we haven't seen, asylum seekers coming in the caravan trying to attempt to cross the border illegally. There's no reports of that yet. It could happen, but that's not the case here. These are asylum seekers looking to say, I want to come to America legally because I'm being persecuted in my own country. It's a very tough thing to get that approved. It is very difficult because you have to show specific persecution because of your religion or your politics or your gender. So it's not easy to do. But I think what'll be interesting to see, remember the backdrop to all of this. When you look at Border Patrol numbers, really they take place from October of one year to November of the next, or November of one year to October of the next. So it's not January to December. That's why we have the final numbers from border crossings. And that's why we know illegal border crossings are way up. that's the backdrop to all of this. So the U.S. military that was sent to the border at the same time that the caravan was coming looked as a direct reaction to the caravan. But what I'm going to be curious to look at is year-over-year comparisons between illegal border crossings in December of last year and illegal border crossings for this year. Did having the military at the border actually change those who attempted to illegally cross over? December is not really a hot month for people to try to legally cross the border. Why? Because it's cold and because it's, quite frankly, it's the holidays. You know, I mean, people are choosing, everyone's normal. They're having these normal thoughts of like, well, when do you go? How do you go? You don't want to go when it's freezing. So, and it can be cold in Texas. And so, and that's just, of course, one place that they could cross over. But, this will be interesting to see. Did having the military at the border have any impact at all? You know, did it have a psychological impact where, you know, you had less folks attempting to cross illegally? So that's something else to watch. So big picture, what you should know, several thousand of the caravan members, if I can call them that, asylum seekers, are at the border. Several thousand are expected. You have the mayor in Tijuana worried about the influx of asylum seekers that are going to be hanging out in Tijuana foreseeably for 6 to 10 months. You have the U.S. government saying, well, hey, we're going to process asylum seekers as quickly as possible. You have the U.S. government sending the military, trying to prove a point about making sure that the border is secure. You also have the Trump administration coming forward with a new proposal that says you cannot seek asylum if you come into this country illegally. It used to be that you could seek asylum no matter what. You could be on a trip and you could seek asylum. They're saying we don't want that to be the case. If you come in illegally, you forfeit your right to seek asylum. That's being challenged in the courts. So those are a couple of things that you need to know. And we'll keep you updated if we hear more about what's going on with the asylum seekers in these caravans. I hope I answered all your questions on that. So that's something I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about. Second thing is I want to go a little bit north into California from the border in Tijuana, because everyone's talking about air quality. I think you've probably heard a lot about air quality because of the wildfire, but it got me thinking this weekend, like, how do we measure air quality? We all talk about it like we know it. I don't know anything about how we measure air quality at all, like at all. It turns out the EPA measures it, and there's 5 different factors for it. But what I learned about the wildfires, I think, is really valuable. Number one, any regular surgical mask is not going to help in the wildfires because the particles are so little, so tiny from the wildfires that they can go through the mask. And people are not just inhaling these particles, but there's a question about once you inhale the particles, how they come into your system and how they can be absorbed into your bloodstream. And that's really the concern of medical professionals. It's not just about, you know, your eyes are burning and you're coughing. It's about whether or not the particles that are being, you know, absorbed into your body because of the wildfire is going to cause an inflammation that's going to be very difficult to deal with. Another thing is that the smoke is essentially getting caught in 200 miles from the fire, partly because of the same reason that San Francisco has fog. It's getting caught because it can't really get out of where the narrow area of the Golden Gate is in San Francisco. And so it's a narrow channel that, and because of the weather patterns and because the pressure can really catch things like fog and like smoke. And so it's being caught there. And I mean, really, one of the things that my takeaway is from the air quality conversation is medical professionals have no idea what the long-term impact of this is. One interesting article by Quartz, I don't know if you guys ever check out that news resource, it's pretty interesting, said they were using a Berkeley University index, said that at a certain point last week, the air quality was so bad, it was the equivalent of smoking 10 cigarettes. Dude. Right? So we're kind of in uncharted territory right now with what's going on with the wildfires in California, and those wildfires are not contained. You know, the one closer to Malibu where all the Hollywood stars were fleeing, and I'm not saying that flippantly, but that's what we all saw on Instagram and social media and everything, that fire is almost contained. You know, it's like 80% or something like that. People are being allowed to go back to their homes. But not the one in Northern California. It was like 55% contained as of yesterday. So, I see Sacramento is worse than the San Francisco area. Absolutely. Sacramento, remember, is closer for those, you know, unfamiliar with the area. San Francisco, we think, is a major city in California. Sacramento is the capital. It's about an hour and a half from San Francisco north. And what would you say, Janelle? Would you say it's like 90 miles from San Francisco? I would think. something like that, Sacramento. But the fire is 200 miles from San Francisco. The reason why San Francisco's air quality is being measured is because it's a major metropolitan area and it can be compared to other metropolitan areas. If you want to check out air quality in your area, I have a website that if you go to smarternews.com and you click on our card for air quality and you go to our source page, I put the link as the very first link, and you can put in your zip code and see how good your air quality is in your area. And it happens like right away. And then you can check out how bad the air quality is in California, and it's pretty shocking. So that's something I think you should know about today. Finally, I'm going to leave you on a good note because those are two kind of heavy stories, immigration and the wildfires. The White House Christmas tree arrives today. So if you think it's too early to decorate for Christmas, just know that's what's happening at the White House. And the White House Christmas tree hasn't always been around. Jackie O, as that First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy, was responsible for really making that a tradition. So there you go. Okay, it's happening. And apparently the tree that's being brought in was a tree that some thought was a forgotten tree. But now we'll be sitting in the blue room of the White House. And I've actually been in the White House during Christmas. They have a White House Correspondents' Christmas party. It's where the president will host different journalists, hundreds. And you can go in with a guest and you get to meet the president if you haven't met him already and shake his hand and just see the White House decorated as for Christmas. I went under President Bush and I went under President Obama. And they're both really cool events. And the tree is beautiful. It's very beautiful. And they do a White House gingerbread house. That's really cool every year. So that was a really neat experience. I'd never been to the White House. I mean, growing up in California, it's not like a Washington, D.C. trip is an easy thing to do. So I didn't really have a lot of experience with that. But those were really fun times. You do have to wait outside in the cold for like 2 hours before you get in. So I know it sounds really glamorous, but there's a point of it that you're like, maybe we should just go across the street to the hotel bar. All right. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing great. Have a great day. And I'll be checking in tomorrow, and then we'll see how the rest of the week goes. I think you guys are probably going to be really busy, and we have some fun stories spread out throughout the week. And I hope you guys have a great day, and continue to direct message us or email us, info@smarternews.com, if you'd like us to cover any stories. That's how we got the update about the Caravan. You had a few of you wrote us and said, hey, what's going on with that? Can you give us an update? So we listen. We like you guys. We really like you. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Hey, Christy, good to see you. Okay, I'll talk to you. Bye.